So we're going to do a mock coaching, is that right?
Yeah, it's a mock coaching, but it's something I'm really going through. And of course, Joyce, you would just do your usual, like how you would usually, conduct a session with me. Except that, of course, in the beginning, we will always, do a little bit of a meditation and mindfulness practice, which will help ground me. Um, and I really love that. But yeah, so today I wanted to speak to you about something that I'm going through, especially coming out of 2022. I realized that I want to learn how to prioritize and rest more. I, I find myself often feeling overwhelmed and stressed by the demands of work and the responsibilities of my personal life. I struggle to find the time and energy to take care of myself and my loved ones, and I feel like I'm constantly running on empty. And this is a struggle that I've been going through quite a bit, and I want to see also, I think I yearn to be more present and fulfilled in all aspects of my life. So this is something that I wanted to bring to you, to see how I can work through this.
Yeah, great. So what I'm hearing you say is that you feel overwhelmed and stressed by having to balance all of the demands of work and your personal life, and that you feel like you're running on empty. And I also hear you say you're not feeling as present or fulfilled as you would like to be. Great. So what I'm hearing inside of this is there's two ways we could say it. I'm running on empty or I'm overwhelmed and stressed, trying to balance work and life. Which one of those feels like stickier to you as the core issue?
Well, a lot of the times I think I would relate to feeling more overwhelmed, where I literally feel breathless, like moving from one thing to another, just playing catch up and just trying to ensure that the house is in order, metaphorically. So I think that is what I would relate to.
So the issue is I'm overwhelmed and stressed, trying to balance work and life. And around this issue, do you experience yourself as above the line or below the line? And how do you know? So just to ground our listeners, above the line is when we're in a state of acceptance, curiosity, seeing everything as learning. And below the line is when we're in a state of resistance or threat.
Mm.
Now, you and I have done this a few times together. So you're actually very good at being able to locate yourself. Experience, how do you know if you're above or below the line around this issue of being overwhelmed and stressed by work and life?
Most of the time I'm below the line for this because I am just reacting. And a lot of things is like knee-jerk reactions, and responses to what's happening around me, firefighting, not being as considered and thoughtful in my everyday life as much as I would love to. That's when I find myself below the line most of the time, just
Yeah.
running from one thing to another and just being so exhausted. But asking myself at the end of the day, what have I really accomplished? I don't really know. I have perhaps, solved for, many different things, but yeah, am I like fulfilled on the day to day or things like that? I can't really answer that.
Okay, great. So what I'm hearing you say in ways that you're locating yourself as below the line is first, you can tell you're not in a state of presence. There's not a lot of spaciousness. You're feeling highly reactive. You're breathless. So there's maybe some holding of the breath, some constriction that's happening in your somatic experience.
Yeah.
And then there's some confusion and overwhelm, which are all different types of signals to us that we're operating from below the line. So from the acknowledgement that around this issue of feeling overwhelmed and stressed by having to balance work and life, we've located you as when you're feeling triggered by this, you're below the line. And from there, I want to do something that we call the drama triangle. So we've done this many times before, but for the interest of the audience,
Yeah.
for their learning. The drama triangle, it's an idea that a psychologist in the 70s named Stephen Carpenter, he theorized that anytime we're in a state of resistance and threat, we actually operate in a triangle of three postures. The first is that of victim, where we feel at the effect of the world, that everything's happening to us and we're powerless to do anything about it. Inside a villain, we find somebody to blame or criticize for the problem. So it's either their fault or the government's fault or COVID's fault. And sometimes we point villain back itself. It's my fault. And the last posture is that of hero. And the hero the hero hates temporary discomfort, or the hero hates any kind of conflict. They don't like to be with uncomfortable feelings. And so the hero, imagine yourself putting a cape on and coming in to save the day. If they don't like some conflict or some discomfort that's showing up, they seek temporary relief. So the hero is the manager that says, oh, no one wants to work this weekend. I'll just work this weekend. I'll do it.
Yeah.
It's the spouse that says, I don't want to start a fight with you. I'm too tired. So I'm going to not tell you how I feel, and I'm going
Mm.
to do the dishes and do the laundry
Or
without
suppress
confronting.
how I really feel. Yeah.
Yeah, so those are hero behaviors, which can be quite dangerous because from below the line, heroing leads to exhaustion and burnout, and it role
Mm.
models to others an unsustainable way of being.
Mm.
As we look at your issue, being in a state of overwhelm and stress about balancing work and life, I know we have limited time, so maybe you could just quickly show me what's showing up on each of these bases for you. So we can just make your unconscious beliefs, behaviors, thoughts more visible. We're making the
Yeah.
invisible visible, bringing them to your awareness because we cannot shift that which we're not aware of.
Mm.
So first, around the overwhelm, what shows up here for you?
There is a lot of times I feel that there is so much that I have to do, that I can't control. And, so many times I feel that I am pulled in different places. People demand for my time and attention in so many areas. And I just feel that I have no choice but to attend to each of that and give myself to them at the expense of myself and so much more.
So that actually was a statement that covered all three bases. So from hero, it's I have to give so much of myself. I don't have so much to give. From victim, it's I'm exhausted, I'm depleted, I have nothing more to give.
Mm.
And villain, it's why are they demanding this of me? Why is everybody asking me to do things for them?
Mm.
So you can see how even one statement can cross
Mm.
those three bases. And so if we were to get sharp on the individual statements, I'm noticing this one's strong for you. So how does your hero come into play? And feel free to exaggerate, dramatize. The bigger you make
Yeah.
it, the more you see it.
I feel that a lot of times, if I don't do it, no one else would do it, especially, let's say, for matters of the home, and I think that's something that I would just end up taking it on and doing it just so that we can all move on, move on with
Great.
life. Yeah.
Great. And then what happens here? Who's to blame when you're feeling really overwhelmed and stressed about work and life?
Well, everyone, because I feel that no one understands what I'm going through, what I'm struggling, how packed my calendar is. And so I feel that, why is no one asking me how I really am?
That's
And
actually great. Yeah, great. So noticing there's actually a victim thought. No one's
mm,
asking what I'm doing. No one understands what I'm experiencing. That's
mm,
actually it's a beautiful revelation from victim, just seeing what thoughts occur from that base.
mm,
And then if you were really to place blame, what are some of the thoughts that show up in an average day for you? Why doesn't this it could be like, why doesn't this person take responsibility?
yeah.
Why can't this person do this?
Yeah, and it's really around like why do I have to take it upon myself to do it when it's not something I feel I should do. And yeah, especially when I feel overwhelmed, I find myself blaming and questioning people around me.
What's a recent example of someone or some organization that you blamed?
Just like help around the house. I feel so grateful that I have good help to help me, around the house. But I also feel that sometimes I end up, but this is also because for me, right, Joyce, maybe I don't communicate enough or express what I really need or what I'm going through. But when I feel overwhelmed and when I feel that there's too much for me to take, I end up blaming everyone around me and wishing that they could just take a little of the load off of me just for a day.
And
So
then inevitably, what happens after you have those thoughts?
if I'm not conscious, sometimes I let it fester and I hold it and suppress it, that it becomes a grudge. Yeah, I find that it really affects me negatively in, how I show up, therefore, at home. And I realize that that's not fair to the people around because I don't express my need or I don't get to talk through what I'm really feeling but I feel so many times that there's just too much going on that I have no time to do all of that. So yeah.
Great. So I'm just appreciating you noticing that you not speaking up around your feelings is a kind of heroing because you're avoiding conflict by not saying
Mm,
anything, but then it
mm,
festers and becomes a kind of resentment. And we know we're in hero when we resent the people and teams around us. Part of taking 100% responsibility in our lives is noticing how much we resent people around us and taking responsibility not to resent them. Anytime we're on the triangle and below the line, fear is the underlying feeling. So I'm
mm,
just wondering if you can tap into noticing as you talk about this issue, this feeling of overwhelm and stress, as you try to balance your busy career with your personal life, that fear is here. Great. And would you be willing to allow yourself to feel fear?
mm.
And just checking in over there, where do you feel it?
Oh, definitely in my chest. That is
Great,
constricted and very tight.
great, great. So I love that you're naming a physical sensation. because the practice of accepting ourselves for being scared is not a cognitive exercise, it's a somatic one. So just noticing there's constriction up here and in here. As a practice of allowing, would you be willing to just take a couple deep breaths into the fear that's in your body around this stress and overwhelm? And just allow it to be in your body exactly how it's showing up. Yeah, there's just a little scare in there. This is a big question, but would you be willing to accept yourself for just being a human being that's triggered and scared?
Mm-hmm. I have to learn to.
Great. So there's a little bit, I'm just noticing there's a little resistance. Maybe it feels hard. Maybe there's confusion around how to do that. And so let's just do another somatic practice, or it's like a visioning practice to help you see if you can welcome and accept the fear. So I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to imagine a younger version of you coming into the room with us. Picture her as a girl, and she's feeling pretty scared and overwhelmed. She's someone who is very sensitive to the needs of everyone around her, and she feels a sense of duty and responsibility to take care of those needs. But she can sense and perceive so much. It feels overwhelming. How old is that one when you bring her to your mind's eye?
About 9 or 10.
And when we encounter a 9 or 10-year-old and they're scared about something, we don't tell them, "You idiot, get over it." We don't talk to kids that way. And so we shouldn't talk to ourselves that way. So I want you in this visioning exercise to invite her to get closer to you and to put your arm around her or to hold her hand. And with gentle compassion, just letting her know it's okay to be scared. As the adult that you are today, saying, "I see you, I know you're scared. You make sense to me. There's nothing you need to do to be seen or to be loved, because you are perfect and whole and complete just the way you are. You don't need to please anyone. You don't need to do anything. Just be you and you'll be seen and loved." So I want to ask you, how does this feel different in your body, having done that exercise?
I feel a lot more connected. And so I kind of feel like it's easier to breathe through. I think for a long time, I feel stuck in my breathing or like have shallow breaths, which I noticed. Yeah, but I felt like besides trying to, meditate, do breath work, I didn't really know how to unclog it internally. Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great. So the first thing we say in conscious leadership is that we cannot shift that which we're not aware of. And that's why exercises like locating yourself and being on the drama triangle, these practices of making the unconscious conscious, are
Mm,
so helpful in the
mm,
first step, getting a shift in the results we have in our lives or how
mm,
we want to experience life. The second thing that we say is we cannot shift that which we cannot accept. So if fear is here and you're not willing to accept yourself or give yourself any compassion or grace, that there's just a part of you who's scared, and that's okay. Without being able to accept that, it's really difficult to move to shift into a feeling of being above the line.
mm,
So these somatic practices really help us to do that.
mm.
Um,
I wanted to
yeah.
share, Joyce, that, when you brought me back to the envisioning exercise, and maybe this is also to share to the audience why that was so powerful for me, because um, it brought me back to a time when you were asking me how old was I then. It brought me back to a time when I was younger, like I shared 9 or 10, where I remember always trying to be the good girl at home and do everything for everyone just so that I can be accepted and loved. And immediately, I thought like, oh wow, that's been something I perhaps it's a coping mechanism or something that I've learned to a compulsive behavior that I've a learned behavior that I've had over the years so that I can be accepted and loved by the people around me. Yeah, so that really brought to my awareness um, and consciousness that I tend to do that in hoping in exchange for acceptance and love. Yeah.
Yeah. And in the beginning of this conversation, we talked about how as adults, we have a lot of survival strategies
Mm,
that we developed when we were younger.
yeah.
And over time, they helped us be successful, be seen, like, approved of, maybe helped us get security or control.
Mm,
But a certain time where they stop being as effective, where
mm,
they're not serving our greatest evolution and growth if they are working in opposition to how we want to experience life. So I make up over here that you're a good girl persona, or that one in you who shows up that way, has been an incredible service to you your whole life. She can sense what people need. She can sense what she should do, and that's worked really well for a long time. But now she's in overdrive. When fear happens and you get triggered and go below the line, in your reactivity, the good girl persona overrides the entire system, and she
mm,
says, "We're just going 100%, 110% good girl,
mm.
because we need to get approval."
Yeah.
And that's how you're dealing with fear.
Yeah. And I overcompensate in that way. Mm,
Mhm. So I think the power of even naming the good girl, which is something that we do in the practice of conscious leadership through persona interviews, and I don't know that we'll have time to get to that today, it's just noticing, naming, getting to know all the different parts of ourselves. For every good girl, there's probably like lots of other different personalities that live
yeah.
inside of us.
Yeah.
And just loving them, knowing that they're all here to help us. There are parts of self that came to support us early in life. But sometimes they're not always the right solution for the problem. And so
Mm,
your wisest one, by separating yourself from good girl and saying, she's a part of me, she's not all of me, then you get to make decisions. You get to notice when she overrides the system versus when you choose her to do a specific job. So it's
mm.
a difference if she's wearing you or if you're choosing her. And I think that creates a lot more experience of freedom, where just simply by having that choice, um, you start to step into the being the creative of your well-being. So if she's driving you to exhaustion, you may want to say, hold on, I think good girl's activated and it may not be in service of me right now. So I might choose to
Mm.
do something different. I might not say yes to those 3 dinners in a row. I might not say yes to 6 a.m. calls every day of the week, even though good girl might choose that, just
Yeah.
noticing.
Yeah.
So now that we've kind of noticed good girls here, you're coming into a state of acceptance around your fear. I'm wanting to know if you'd be willing to shift around this issue of being overwhelmed and stressed out by your work and life. Would you be willing to shift from a state of resistance and trust to a state of learning and curiosity?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we're going to play a game, which you and I have played before, called willingness questions.
Mm,
It's really just distinguishing the difference between wanting to do something and actually being willing to do it. A lot of people say, I want to lose weight, and they'll buy a Peloton and they'll get an app, but they don't actually change the way they're eating, or they don't start exercising. So they want to lose weight, but they're not actually willing to. And
mm.
so the exercise is you tuning in. Do you have a whole body yes to the question that I'm asking you? Or at which shows us willingness, or anything shy of that is just wanting, and us having self-awareness around where there's want versus where there's willingness.
Got it.
So my first question for you, and maybe we'll just do 3 for the interest of time, but my first question
Yeah.
for you is, would you be willing to let go of being right? That if you don't do it, no one else is going to do it for a lot of these activities that you're signing up for in your work and life. And you're just checking if it's a whole body yes, or if there's
Yeah.
anything shy.
So the question is, am I willing to let go of being right?
That if you don't do a lot of these things that are in your schedule, then no one else is going to do it.
Yes, I'm willing.
Great. And how do you know? How can you look around the world and see evidence that that's true?
For me, I know that I'm willing because actually I consciously try to already in the period that I'm going through that I feel overwhelmed and stressed, and I try to also work through telling myself that it's okay, I can let it go, and the world wouldn't crash, life would still go on, everything would still be okay. And I find myself already slowly opening up myself to the truth that I don't have to take on everything upon myself. So
And
that's
if we
why,
were to take it a step further, do you see
yeah,
anybody in your life who would be willing to support? If you can't do it, they could do it.
yes, so many. And I think both at work and at home, I do have people that I know will support me as long as I honestly express myself and communicate that to them.
Yeah, great. So sometimes when we're really caught up in a story, like if I don't do it, nobody else will. We start to we start to become blind to how the opposite of the story could be true, and we start seeing all of the support and resources that are around us.
Mm.
My next question for you is if you'd be willing to stop blaming and criticizing those around you in your work and personal life for not seeing that you're overwhelmed and exhausted, not asking you how you are, and not helping you.
Yes. And I say yes, it's a whole body yes, because I find myself only blaming and, and holding that resentment when I feel that I have reached my limit. And, once I cooled down, also, I realized that it's not fair to pin it on them because actually no one really knows how I'm feeling if I don't express or communicate back to that same struggle and issue of like expressing myself honestly and communicating what my needs are. I can't expect people to, be a mind reader or, just sense because I'm sure everyone has their own worries on life and challenges as well.
Okay, great. And my third question for you is, would you be willing to feel all of your authentic feelings all the way through when they show up? In particular, your anger and your fear.
Yeah, this is not a whole body yes for me because
Great. Beautiful noticing.
yeah, most of the time I feel like I'm just when I kind of feel it coming up, like either the fear or the anger, I just feel like I have to quickly put it away or suppress it because firstly, maybe I don't really know what to do with it. Um, and secondly, I feel that there's so many other things to do on my to-do list that I don't have time to, address how I'm honestly feeling. So it's kind of like plastering over it.
Yeah, great. So just noticing, I'm just so appreciating you noticing. You don't have a whole body yes to feeling your authentic anger and fear through to completion when they show up. Now,
Mm,
for people listening, they may not know exactly what that means. And so, what I want to point to here is that feelings are intelligent.
mm,
Um, it is a kind of emotional intelligence and body intelligence that many of us disregard in our day to day and believe is not useful. But feelings have so much information for us. So, just the way your stomach growls is a kind of information. You don't judge that as being a waste of time. You're just
mm,
like, oh, my body's telling me I'm hungry. So, anger from above the line tells us something needs to stop or change. And fear from above the line says, be present, pay attention. It helps you scan for actually danger. It's the energy of stepping into traffic and your body pulling you out. Pay attention.
mm.
So, just to do a little practice, a somatic practice, if you're willing,
Yeah,
of you getting congruent. When I say feeling feelings through completion, can
yeah.
you show me a little bit of your anger? If you were to match your anger with a sound and a movement,
Mm.
show me what some of your anger around this looks like. When you tune into the issue of I'm overwhelmed and stressed about balancing work and life.
Oh no, there's so much. I just feel like I want to scream, but I can't. But yes, I think that like yes, for sure. I think there's a lot that I would just want to release.
You're saying you're having resistance to wanting
Yeah,
to release it, but
yeah,
that it's all there.
yeah,
And then if you were going to show me like a little bit,
yeah,
it could be like,
yeah.
show me a little bit.
Like, oh,
Great. And if you were to turn that up like 20%,
oh.
great. So now you've expressed it, and all that's left is the intelligence of your anger. What's
Mm.
your anger telling you needs to stop or change around the way that you're running your work in your life?
So specifically around like what needs to stop around how I am running my work and life.
Yeah. So it could be your schedule, it could be the
Yeah,
decision
I
making, your
think it's primarily like stop being reactive. From the moment that I wake up, I'm immediately attuned to like, okay, how's my son? How's everything? Is everything okay? And like immediately, check if I have any urgent messages that I need to attend to. So from the get-go, I'm already like, all my feelers are out and
yeah,
just
great.
making sure that I can take care of it. Yeah.
Great. So your anger is actually informing you, Rachel, something needs to stop or change in the move of your life. The way a director would yell cut on a set, it's that
Mm,
clean. It's just saying stop. This is not working for us. It's not supportive to us. And so it's just letting you know something you're doing needs to stop or change. And this,
Mm.
what you just communicated, this state of hyper reactivity,
Yeah.
not feeling friendly to your system. Great. And then fear, as you tune into the fear of not having approval, the fear of if you let people down, what's a sound or a movement your fear would make just so that you can get congruent? And this is just a game that we're playing. It's you matching your expression to your emotion. Can you show
Yeah.
me what your fear looks and sounds like?
Definitely, like mm, it's like a
Yeah,
whimper.
yeah. And if you were to turn that up and even make it smaller,
Mm,
great. So now that you've done a little bit of matching here, and I imagine there's more, but you've matched a little bit, fear from above the line tells us, pay attention. Something wants to be learned here. What do you think your fear wants you to be present to that is a learning for you?
hmm. Yeah, I haven't really thought about that, but I think the first thing that comes to my mind is to let go and trust. Whether is it trusting myself and the people around me? Hmm.
Great. So I'm hearing a little bit of an opening just by you processing your fear, noticing how tightly you're controlling, and that actually might be dangerous for yourself and the people that you love. So your fear is making you present to you're doing something that might be not good for
Mm,
us,
mm,
and then your intelligence coming to if I can just relax and trust a little bit,
mm,
that might be a good antidote to what my fear is telling me is a danger. So just seeing how a little processing, I make up that was like 10% of the feelings that were in there. Just even a little processing creates first learning. Feelings are intelligent. The body has so much wisdom to tell us. And
yeah.
I've been cutting it out every day. And so allowing it to be here and to inform how you show up. And then from there, you're even coming up with ideas like, oh, maybe I should just trust a little bit more that it will
Mm,
all be fine. And then the last question I have for you as we play the willingness question game is, would you be willing to reveal any withholds that you have to the people that you work with, the people in your family, any thoughts, feelings, or sensations that have not been communicated around this issue of feeling overwhelmed and stressed by work and life?
yes.
Great. And what would you communicate to them that's been withheld?
Firstly, I think, what's been consuming me, the worries, and how I kind of feel, yeah, the areas which I can't do in a sense, and I really need help in. I think also communicating honestly how I feel around having to do, the things that I need to do at this point and how it's causing me to feel overwhelmed. Yeah.
Great. Great. So I'm hearing you expressing what's true for you, that there's fear or there's overwhelm, there's
Mm,
stress.
mm,
You might even want to reveal that there's fear and anger,
mm,
and that you're asking for their support
mm,
because you can't do it all by yourself.
mm.
Beautiful. And just to double check on this, to really check on your willingness, by when will you reveal this and to whom?
Definitely, realistically by the end of January, which is in a couple of weeks, and to my husband, actually my partner at work, Dion, and my partner in life, my husband. So yeah.
Great. Beautiful. So I'm just noticing my energy is rising as I picture you just expressing what's true for you without a lot of story around it and asking for support from your partners. I make up that they're going to be happy to lean in and help you. So there's plenty more where we can take this.
Yeah.
But in the interest of time, I hope that this provides your audience with a little bit of understanding of what a context coaching session can look like.
Mm,
Uh, where again, we're making the invisible visible. We're bringing unconscious behaviors, beliefs, patterns to your awareness. And then we are looking at acceptance. So can we accept ourselves for being scared when we get triggered and we dip below the line? How so human of us? Can we just be gentle with ourselves when that shows up? And then from that place, exploring willingness questions that examine things like, where do we need to be right that might be holding us below the line? Where are
mm,
we blaming and criticizing that might be holding us in reactivity? Where are we suppressing feelings which are so intelligent? And where are we withholding what's true for us? That's creating disconnection with the people around us. And just by the process of examining those things, we can start to see what it might look or feel like to shift to above the line. A lot of people ask me, okay, so I've done the willingness questions. How do I shift? I don't know how. And my answer is always that each of these questions is like a set of lights on a path, where if you have a whole body yes to the question, the lights turn on and you step forward. And sometimes just by discussing it, which happened here today,
Yeah.
just by reflecting, wondering, where's their blame? Where's their righteousness? The lights by themselves flicker on and you step forward and it feels open. So how reflection and self-awareness can help you to feel more free and see things, more as they really are versus just your story about it.
Yeah.
And with each set of lights that lights up where you have a whole body yes to these questions, then suddenly you've shifted above the line, and that's an experience of feeling more alive and more free. So there are lots of practices like that are all based in context frameworks, to help you see where reactivity has a hold on you, and that you have other choices just by looking at things a different way.
I love it. Thank you, Joyce. And I think for me, I feel immediately after this, also like lighter in a sense where, I learned that I think the perspective that I have is that, okay, I don't have to be in this alone. And a lot of the times, the resentment or the fear that consumes me is because of the story that I have in my head about what's happening, or the people around me that, the people around me that I'm expecting to behave a certain way, be it to check in or to help me, but in actual fact, they don't, maybe they don't even really know what's that how
Mm-hmm.
I'm overwhelmed and how that's affecting me, and therefore, they are not able to um support me or help me in the way that I hope for. So it's really about being able to communicate that authentically to them. Uh, and yeah, so I kind of feel that, okay, a lot of times the fear or the resentment is self-inflicted through, yeah.
Yeah. So what you're pointing to, which I love, is this idea of facts versus stories. Facts
Mm,
are what a video camera would record. The fact is, there was a task to do and you decided to do it.
yeah,
So that's what a video camera would capture of something that happens in your life on a day-to-day basis.
yeah,
The story is the meaning that we make up and project on the facts. So the stories around that might be, I shouldn't have to take out the trash. I have too much to do.
yeah,
He's being lazy. She's not stepping into her responsibility. Why is no one helping me? All of these are stories that are being formed around the fact.
yeah.
So facts don't cause suffering. Stories do. And a big part of how we can take responsibility for the experience we have of life is to start to examine if our stories are really true. And then
Mm,
inviting others to let us know if that's their experience.
mm. Well,
So,
that's so good. I just write that down.
yeah, this practice of challenging our stories, investigating if the opposite might be true, helps to dial down the intensity of that suffering. And it also, when expressed to others, invites conversation and more revealing, where multiple points of view can come together to work out what one person's subjective experience is.
Thank you so much, as always, Joyce.
Yeah, you're so welcome. What a
Yeah,
pleasure to do that.